up, guys? We got another mock coming your way, a live mock. We never talked about who's actually hosting this, so I just jumped in here. I figured it was me. But
smart call.
Yeah, let's do this thing. Yeah. We're switching up the order last time. So what was the first result? Justin Fields, was it Hank? You drafted Justin Fields?
I did. Yeah, totally off brand, but I did it.
And in the second one, that was me, right? There's only been two other, or has there been four?
Yeah.
Okay, second one was me. Yeah. And that one, I drafted Rashawn Slater with the 9th pick, which at the time, seemed like I was going out on a limb. Now there's all sorts of Slater to Denver buzz. So, maybe I created it, maybe I didn't. But this time we're going to let Andre be the agent of chaos, per se. You get to select for the Broncos. And Hank, you get the first overall pick. So why don't we just jump right in here and let you make a selection?
Yeah. Should we waste some time here just for fun, or should I just say, okay, Trevor Lawrence? It's Trevor Lawrence. We can move on.
Okay, good job.
Yeah.
You killed this. You really delivered it and everything that we could have ever asked for. With the number 2 pick, the New York Jets select Zach Wilson.
Wow. Nice. 100% accuracy on this mock already. Best mock in the world right here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Should we stop here?
Yeah.
Should we call it a day? Take our 100 batting average?
Down for technical difficulties, exactly. I noticed, Ryan, in your Broncos, the DNVR Broncos podcast crew, Zach Wilson, no one's second-ranked quarterback in this class.
Nope. My second-ranked quarterback was Trey Lance. Zach's second-ranked quarterback was Mac Jones.
Wow.
Says a lot about the Jets. Okay, at number 3, the odds makers have come back. Decision that seemed to be the decision the Niners made all along for this trade seems to have been restored. Mac Jones, the odds-on favorite, and I really think this is where the Niners will end up going.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And what I said on the podcast today, which I'll keep coming back to until I'm either right or wrong, is I think Kyle Shanahan has fallen in love with Mac Jones' ability to make the correct read in RPOs. He's like immaculate at that. Maybe his best talent of anything is he pretty much makes the right decision every time when it comes to those RPOs. I think Kyle wants to include more of that. It's the only way I can really wrap my head around them being so in love with him, and so I'm with you on that.
There's some pretty crazy Mac Jones stories though. Like him, like when he's 13, audibling from the spike and throwing the bomb over the top. I mean, mostly stuff like that, like reaching the ball out over the pylon on a Hail Mary drill where he audibled to a hook and ladder, and Nick Saban's freaking out because you never reach the ball out and you never ruin his practices. I mean, there's a lot of the stuff to like about him. I feel like is maybe not football related.
Oh, lovely.
The off-field stuff, the personality, has his ankles taped like Tom Brady.
That's what I want to hear about the guy who I traded up several spots in the draft to acquire.
Glass ankles. That's the first thing I look for in a scouting report, no doubt.
All right, who's up? You are.
Yeah,
this is a fun one. Honestly, I've been thinking a lot about what I would do if it was my pick. And what I would really like to do is just go get like Jamar Chase and then put Ridley in the slot with Julio and just have incredible receivers. But I don't think that's the right call. It's Pitts. I think he fits in better. You have Hurst. 2 tight end sets are, I don't know. I feel like they're in again now. Is that wrong? I feel like they're kind of coming back. I think that's probably just the talent, the fit, it makes too much sense.
Yeah, I mean, that 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, especially with that tight end that kind of masquerades as an outside wide receiver, a la Noah Fant, a la Kyle Pitts, has really been the NFL's new counter to, nickel being the new base defense. So, yeah, I think you're spot on, Hank. And I think this, if Atlanta stays, is probably Pitts. If they were to trade out, though, I think then that opens some options up here.
Yep. All right, that leaves me on the clock at number 5 with Cincinnati. Man, I think it's so hard. I think this is going to be a difficult selection for them because I think the easy thing to do is to select Jamar Chase. And just say, like, we're giving our great quarterback a great wide receiver. This is an easy decision. Everyone will be excited about it. It'll sell a bunch of jerseys. It'll sell a bunch of tickets. It'll get people really excited. I think the smart thing to do here is to draft Penei Sewell. And I think the injury will be what gets them to keep coming back. Like, that's what they just, like, we don't have a franchise quarterback if he's not on the field. Jamar Chase can't protect him. Let's get Penei Sewell and just be smart and do the right thing.
This is that would be the smart decision. And the two scenarios you just kind of broke down, if you go to DraftKings, you can get exact scenarios. And the two most likely scenarios there are Jones, Pitts, Chase, and then the second most likely, Jones, Pitts, Sewell. I agree. Sewell, the smarter choice. Will the Bengals be smart, though? That's a humdinger right there. Hank, it's your turn. No, it's my turn. No. Agent of Chaos time. Well, Ryan, you don't give me an opportunity to be an agent of chaos here, because by doing the smart thing as the Bengals here in South Beach, we are ecstatic that we can get Jamar Chase. He was our target all along. It's who we would have drafted at 3 before we made that trade with the Niners. And now to get him at 6, we feel like kings. So there you go.
So what's interesting here, boys, is that I think the way the board has fallen so far, you could actually make a case that there would maybe be no trade backs.
Yeah.
I think that, the one maybe silly thing about this exercise is it's hard for us to execute the trades. By the way, speaking of executing trades, tune into the 3-Ring Circus tomorrow, as both of these stunning gentlemen will join us on there, and we will talk about trades. We're going to actually try to play GM, execute trades, all that good stuff. Yes. But I actually think that there's a chance that Atlanta says we got to have Pitts, and then Cincinnati says, you know what, we're biting the bullet, we're taking Sewell, and then Miami says, cool, we'll just take the best wide receiver on the board here. So, like, this is actually a possible scenario in my opinion.
Yeah, and totally as you just outlined, dream scenario for most of those teams. Sorry, Hank.
Yeah, no, I think that it makes a lot of sense. Next up is me, though, with the Lions. A lot of different directions you could go, especially with quarterbacks falling. I think we've talked about this here before, but I do think they're bought in at least 1 year with Jared Goff. See if you can do something, since you have him under contract for another year anyway. And because of that, I think that they go to their next biggest need, or maybe just their biggest need, and that's wide receiver. They're going to double up right after Jamar Chase goes off the board. Even though he's 166 pounds, Detroit is taking Devontae Smith.
Man, I really like Devontae Smith. I hope he doesn't go to Detroit.
That's fair.
It's just like where higher first-round receivers go to die, except for Calvin Johnson.
Yes.
But what is Calvin Johnson if he doesn't have to be a Lion?
That is so true.
He may be winning teams Super Bowls.
That is so true. He's probably like Randy Moss or something.
Yeah.
I think this is a great pick, Hank. But I think this plays exactly into the point you were just making, Ryan. 4, 5, 6, really quality selections for all those teams. 7, if Devontae Smith is your target, you are happy to get out of there, move down to 8, move down to 9, move down to 11, 12, 15, where you could still find one of those top wide receivers slip to you. So I think that Lions pick is where we really start to kind of intensify that trade market for Trey Lance and Justin Fields, who are still on the board at this point.
That leaves this one really interesting. Gosh, I don't know what they would do here. Man, I think after all of this, they've got 2 quarterbacks on the board sitting here in front of them. They made a trade for Sam Darnold, but they really didn't have to give up all that much. You don't have a quarterback until you have a quarterback. I think they bite the bullet here, and they select Justin Fields.
I can't tell you you're wrong.
Okay, I thought you were going to try, but...
No, I mean, when you give up as much as they gave up for Sam Darnold, I read that as he's the young quarterback that they're seeing as the guy they're developing. And to me, I don't think they go for a quarterback, but if Justin Fields is on the board, there's a good chance they have him as the number 2 quarterback on the board. And he could also be number 5, who knows, but you could totally see it. You could totally see it.
I think that they put themselves in a position with Darnold where they said we don't need to get desperate for a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We have a guy who we have some faith in that we can pull for. But I think when this falls to them and there's still 2 quarterbacks on the board, they don't have to trade up at all. They just say, you know what? Like you said, Hank, this is the number 2 quarterback on our board. We're sitting here at 8. We got to take him.
I would argue I think Mac Jones is the number 2 quarterback on their board, and that's why they made the Darnold trade in rapid succession after the Niners made that trade, and it became, at least at that time, clear that was the favorite for San Francisco. Now could Fields rather be their 3rd QB and then value him more than This pick is really interesting. I agree with you. This is probably the direction I would have gone into, Ryan, but I just cannot get over the Sam Darnold trade and what motivated them to do it at that time when it did become a little more apparent that potentially Fields could drop to them as well.
What if they wanted to trade up to 3 to draft Fields? Then when they weren't able to execute that trade, they know they can't trade up with Atlanta, so like we need to come up with a backup plan. But then Fields falls to them and they make the move.
I mean, that'd be incredible. That would be incredible. And the pressers where you're going off telling people that is going to be amazing. So Carolina could look really good with.
So what would you have done? What would you have done at 8 here in my position? Slater?
It would be between Slater and Fields, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
and I would probably say trade down more likely than either of those, But
yeah, I would agree.
But I mean, Fields very much in play. Fields is the right pick, to be clear. It's just I don't understand the Darnold move in correlation, But hey, this works out perfectly for the Broncos. It's incredible that we haven't been able to have this scenario unfold so far. But he is, again, not to be sound like a broken record, but the odds betting favorite to be the Broncos' first pick is Trey Lance at plus 200. That's what we have unfold right here. Trey Lance falls into their lap. And I think the raw talent that this kid possesses is just too great to pass up, especially without having to maneuver at all around the board. I mean, having Trey Lance and then still having your second, your third, your first next year, your second and third for the foreseeable future would be really just the dream scenario to me. I could see his first year unfolding similar to how Kaepernick was used by Harbaugh back in the day when Alex Smith was the starter, and then they had a couple packages for him. And I think just the excitement that this pick would bring to the organization would be something else.
Yeah,
it'd be a lot of fun.
This would be super exciting pick for the Broncos. My question for you guys, as I haven't heard your take on this, and this was our pod poll yesterday, is how many years do you think Trey Lance needs? Because I was on the record on our pod yesterday saying I don't think Trey Lance needs any years. I think he can go in and be a week 1 starter. Now, again, there's going to be a huge transition for him. But what better way to understand the speed of the game than to play it? I think that he's a guy who's athletic enough and intuitive enough to just go out there and say, look, I'm going to learn on the fly out here. I might not know everything right away, but I can figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other direction. We saw some really good plays. We just didn't see really good plays that work in the NFL consistently. There'd be flashes where he throws like nice out routes or hits on a deep ball. But for the most part, I mean, in terms of how often he was on target with his deep ball, guys like Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, they were on target almost twice as often. And while you see the flashes, and I think if you play him, honestly, I think if you play him in some ways, it could kind of look like Drew in the way that there's more left out there. And I'm not sure that you could win games with Trey Lance at quarterback early on. Maybe the second half of the season. And in year 2, I think you're starting to get really hopeful that he's ready to go be the guy.
Henry is, covering FCS football. Henry's been big on that. Transition is not going to be easy, especially with a year off. Look, I tend to side more with you, Ryan. I think the transition might be a little quicker than people give him credit for. And we don't talk about nearly enough how much of a pro-style system Trey Lance ran at North Dakota State. I mean, he's a guy operating under center more than like any quarterback I've evaluated in at least the last 5 years. So I think that'll give him a big leg up. And I think it's not to be underestimated how many drop balls and how weak some of the wide receivers catching balls for him were, and why that kind of led him to, just take over and do things himself with his legs from time to time. But you'll need to adjust the scheme to him a little bit for him to come along faster. But I think a semi-red shirt as a part-time contributor year 1, and then year 2, you're ready to go.
Yeah, we got Chase in the comments here saying, I think you all will be shocked when we don't go QB. I don't think I will be at all. I don't think there's really anything the Broncos could do that would be shocking. They could trade up, they could trade down, they could stay there, they could pick a corner, they could pick an offensive lineman, they could pick Micah Parsons. There's literally no move that they could make that would shock me other than, reaching on some. That wouldn't even shock me. I would like that pick. There's nothing that could shock me other than like if they just reach on some guy who, was a second round prospect or whatever. Like that's the only way I'm going to be shocked by this. We talk quarterback a lot, and we have in recent days because the Broncos have shown a lot of interest in the quarterback position. They tried to trade for Matt Stafford. They've been at everyone's pro day except Mac Jones. They have been showing a lot of interest in the quarterback position, and they never, especially in the new regime, they've never put a stamp of approval on Drew Lock. So that's why we talk a lot of quarterback. And there's 5 quarterbacks who could go in the top 10, and the Broncos are sitting in the top 10. So we're not going to be shocked if they don't go quarterback, but I certainly wouldn't be shocked if they do go quarterback.
Yeah, I still don't think that quarterback is the right move. I still think that when you look at what Drew Lock has done and remember the circumstances he's gone through, changing offensive coordinators without an offseason. Obviously not having an offseason the first season. This is his first real offseason. Nobody's at the facilities. I mean, he has shown enough on the field to me that I'm still excited about Drew Lock. I know that that's a touchy subject right now, and some people fall on different sides, and that's probably the way it should be given how he played, is that it should be about 50-50. The thing is, like Ryan said, there are 5 quarterbacks who are likely to go in the top 10. When you look at the other guys in there, Penei Sewell would be great for the Broncos. They don't need receivers. They don't need tight ends. I like Patrick Surtain, but he's not seeing the field until next season unless he's knocking somebody who's making $10 million a year off the field. And so when you just look at how things fall, you're kind of forced to take what's available to you. And Trey Lance, Justin Fields, all those guys are really talented.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
In this scenario, you would also have lots of options to trade down since the final of those 5 quarterbacks is still available at your pick. You could probably generate a decent amount of, trade capital in a move like that.
Absolutely. All right. There it is, the final live mock that we've done, but we've got plenty more draft content coming your way. More in our preview series coming where we talk about trade-up candidates, which you guys have a good idea of who those are going to be. Trade-down candidates, which is a little more fuzzy. And then second round and beyond candidates, you've got a big board coming, all sorts of awesome stuff. And, of course, it all leads up to that little thing you see down in the corner, DNVR Draft Day Live, where we'll be covering the draft live as a second screen or just the only screen for you, depending on how you want to take it in. But we're super excited to that. We will give you live reaction to whatever happens with the Broncos in the rest of the first round. So if you guys enjoyed this, hit us with a thumbs up. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate that. You can even sign up for alerts. But for now, that's going to wrap things up for us here. We'll talk to you guys later.